Alright. What's going on, you guys? I'm, as always, Mr. Grimmer 2 with Dark Knight at 7, and we're going to give you guys our next review for Rip from the Silverscreen. This is going to be for Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, last year we covered the first Friday the 13th movie, and if you guys remember that one, that is the one where people hated. Some people hated it because the killer was not Freddy Krueger, it was originally his mother. Uh, Spoilers, by the way. Yeah, so yeah, so we're gonna talk to we're gonna go through the plot like we always do, and we are going to see what happens with this. So here we go. 2 months after the murders at Camp Crystal Lake, sole survivor Alice Hardy is recovering from her traumatic experience. In her apartment, when Alice opens the refrigerator to get her cat some food, she finds the severed head of Pamela Voorhees in her refrigerator and is murdered by an unknown assailant with an ice pick to her temple. This is what I hate too, is that you kill the original, the hero in the story. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that here in a little bit. Um, 5 years later, camp counselor Paul Hope hosts a counselor training camp near Camp Crystal Lake. Bad idea, dude. The camp is attended by Sandra, her boyfriend Jeff, troublemaker Scott, tomboy Terry, wheelchair-bound Mark, sweet-natured Vicky, jokester Ted, and Paul's assistant Jenny Field, as well as many other trainees. Around the campfire that night, Paul tells the counselors about the legend of Jason Voorhees, of how he survived his drowning, grew up living in the woods, and is now seeking to kill any intruders to avenge his mother's death. As Ted appears with a mask and a spear, Paul reassures everyone that Jason is dead and that Camp Crystal Lake is off limits. That night, Crazy Ralph wanders onto the property to warn the group, but is garroted from behind a tree. The following day, Jeff and Sandra sneak off to Camp Crystal Lake and find a carcass before getting caught by Deputy Winslow and return to the camp. Later, Winslow spots someone masked in a burlap sack running across the road and chasing him into the woods into a shack before he is killed with a hammer claw. Back at camp, Paul offers the others one last night on the town before the training begins. 6 stay behind, including Jeff and Sandra, who are forced to stay as punishment for sneaking off. At the bar, Jeannie muses that if Jason were still alive and had witnessed his mother's death, it may have left him with no distinction between life and death, or right or wrong. Great. Paul dismisses the idea, proclaiming that Jason is nothing but an urban legend. Meanwhile, the assailant appears at the camp and kills the counselors. One by one, Scott has his throat slit with a machete while caught in a rope trap, and Terry is killed off-screen upon finding his dead body. Mark gets the machete slammed into his face and falls down a flight of stairs. The killer then moves upstairs and impales Jeff and Sandra with a spear as they have sex, and then stabs Vicky with a kitchen knife. Later, Ginny and Paul return to find the places in disarray. In the dark, the killer ambushes Paul and continues to chase Ginny throughout the camp and into the woods, where she comes across the shack. After barricading herself inside, she finds an altar with Pamela Voorhees' head on it, surrounded by a pile of bodies. Realizing that Jason is the killer, Jenny puts on Pamela's sweater and tries to psychologically convince Jason that she is his mother. The ruse fails when he spots his mother's head on the altar and attacks Jenny. Paul appears and attacks Jason, but is quickly overwhelmed. Just as Jason is about to kill Paul with a pickaxe, Jenny picks up a machete and slams it down into Jason's shoulder, seemingly killing him. Paul and Ginny return to the cabin. They think that Jason has followed them, but when they open the door, they are greeted by Terry's dog, Muffin. Suddenly, an unmasked Jason bursts through the window from behind and grabs Ginny. She then awakens to being loaded into an ambulance. She calls out for Paul, who is nowhere to be seen. His fate is left ambiguous. Back in the shack, Pamela Voorhees' head remains on the altar as Jason is also nowhere to be seen. Thus ending part 2 of Friday the 13th. And I forgot to mention that this film was directed by Steve Miner. This film is directed by characters are based from Victor Miller. This stars Amy Steele and John Foray and a bunch of other people.
That's right.
And stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this one. Hold on, dude.
Oh, good.
Oh, I don't care. Shut up. Sorry, guys. That was I'm just getting stupid texts from people. But anyway. But yeah, this is my problem with this movie. You killed off the original chick that freaking survived in the first movie. That's my only complaint about this movie. But as far as everything else, the bodies begin to stack. Exactly. When you decide to bring people to that camp, people are gonna freaking die.
Exactly.
So Paul Holt, this dude, he is an idiot because he's doing this whole thing because he's bringing an all new batch of people to get murdered and killed and all this other stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, even though I felt that this, the thing about it is that the thing about this movie is that I liked it. I liked it a lot. Don't know why I got 29% of Rotten Tomatoes, which I thought was kind of stupid, but I get the reason. I kind of get the reason why because of the fact that Adrienne King's character, who was Alice in the first movie, she gets killed by Jason in this one. And she was a fan favorite in the original movie.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I think I don't know, but I think this movie deserves a little bit more credit than what it got. Even though I kind of feel that way, I think that this was, I think it was a huge middle finger. When they killed off Alice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in the first freaking 10 minutes of the movie, they killed her off.
For real, like, and so when you start watching it, it's like when it starts out, basically, within the next couple minutes, boom,
Yeah. But what did you think? What did you think of part 2 for Friday the 13th, man?
Well, and I want to tell the situation about, the character from the first one. Normally when there's a sequel, you want to know, is his character going to come back? And if so, what's going to happen next? And
yeah.
And then the sequel, what this next character going to do? Normally, when the sequel comes, you see the character last the whole movie. I kind of, and then, but in this one, the character from the first one, she gets killed like that, off the bat,
Yeah.
And you never know what will become of her. But in this movie, I liked it. I liked this movie. I liked it too. But yeah, that's just the one thing that I did not like about it was they already killed, but already within the first 10 minutes of the beginning of the movie, she already gets killed, and it's like, what the heck? I thought we were going to see more of her. What was going to become of her after the events of the first film? Because that's when you have sequels for 1, for 2, it's like telling a story. What happens next in the story? What happens with the characters? You want all the audience is left with wanting to know what's going to happen in the next sequel with the characters. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. As you said, she was the fan favorite. She survived it in the first film. She killed Pamela Voorhees. We want to know how she you're gonna be living with after the events of the first film. And you can feel that, that didn't sit with me. But like I said, I liked it. And overall, I mean, good movie. Good movie.
Yeah, and you know what the messed up part about this was?
Yeah.
This movie, if you think about it for a second, the way he looked in the movie with a bag over his head, there's another movie called The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which I'm gonna talk about another day.
Definitely.
Which is loosely based on which is uh, the killer in that. It's loosely based on it's loosely that movie is loosely based on the actual on an actual murder that occurred in the that of an actual murder that occurred back in the 70s. Um, yeah, there was an actual murder that occurred back in 1978 or something like that. That happened in Bowie County, Texas. Wow, that's like really far from here. Really far from where I live, and we're really far from where he lives. Um, um, but yeah, it's kind of. But yeah, I'm probably gonna talk about this one at some point. Probably
Okay.
maybe next year for Ripped. I
Okay.
gotta watch the movie first. But um, but yeah, I think the movie deserves a little bit more credit than what it got. Um, this is the debut of Jason Voorhees.
That's right.
This was the movie that brought Jason to the forefront. Um, it wasn't the original Friday the 13th because the
That
first
was
one
yes.
the first one we knew who the killer we kind of I kind of figured it was Pamela Voorhees, his mother, because who why else would she get pissed off at a bunch of campers for uh for the fact
Yeah.
that her son was killed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that
Only
that her son
yeah.
drowned. You know what I mean? So but yeah, you guys are probably asking, well, y'all guys gave the other one, y'all guys gave the other sequel a 7.5 out of 10. What'd you give this one? Well, I give this one 10. I have to give this one
Yes.
a 10.
All
This
the way.
one,
All the way. Yep.
out of between the first one and this one, this has to be. Even though I did have problems with the first, even though I did have problems with this one, the fact that they killed off Adrian King's character in this one,
Mm-hmm.
the body count was I it was completely genius the way they killed off these campers and stuff like that.
Yep.
But it was also a really good movie. You know what I mean? I felt like we saw Jason. This is Jason's first outing as a killer,
Yep.
the main killer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and this would give him legendary status
Yep.
later on in the movies. But yeah,
That's right.
uh, we're gonna talk about those other sequels another day. Part 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Final Friday, or so we thought. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna talk about those other sequels another day.
Definitely we are. We are.
But let me know in the comment section what y'all guys thought about Friday the 13th Part 2. Coming up next, we're going to have the first of 3 Halloween editions of Back in Time. Now, I'm going to still use the Rip from the Silverscreen set here for Back in Time because I want to give it that Halloween flavor. So just keep in mind of that. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I'm Mr. Grandphone 2. He is Dark, the one and only Dark Knight 987, and we'll
Yep.
see you all in the afterlife. But not too far in the afterlife because Jason might come after your ass. So, but anyway, uh, yeah. But anyway, I'll see y'all guys later. I'm Mr. Garren Fallen 2 with Dark Knight 97. And we'll see you on the afterlife. Peace.